In this episode of Full Droop TV, we install fiberglass fenders and bedsides on our project Chevy Silverado. Plus, we discuss selecting off-road capable wheels and tires. Full Droop TV starts now. This episode of Full Droop TV is brought to you in part by Fiberworks Off-Road Fiberglass.
Hey, welcome to Full Droop TV. This is a show about building Prerunner off-road vehicles. And if you don't know what a Prerunner is, this is a Prerunner.
To build a Prerunner, we take off-road racing inspired suspension and put them on regular trucks. That allows you to drive faster over whatever type of terrain you come across. With a typical Prerunner, we replace all the factory suspension components: upper A-arm, lower A-arm, steering upgrades, and bigger shocks. In the rear of a Prerunner, we build what's called a bed cage. A bed cage allows you to mount longer shocks for more wheel travel. And in future episodes of Full Droop TV, we're going to be showing you how to build these. The stock tires and wheels aren't going to cut it. With increased wheel travel and larger tires, the factory fender well doesn't have enough clearance. So that's why we use fiberglass fenders and bedsides. They have an increased bulge out and a larger wheel opening to provide room for the tire to travel further up into the truck. Another element of a Prerunner is front end protection. This is a tube steel fabricated bumper. It utilizes a skid plate to protect a radiator, and it's the perfect place to mount off-road lights.
Today we're going to start on our first build, this 2007 Chevy Silverado 1500. We're going to transform this stock truck into a capable Prerunner, able to eat up any terrain that we throw at it. Over the next few weeks, you're going to see us install a long travel suspension kit in the front, fiberglass fenders and bedsides. We'll be fabricating a bed cage for the rear suspension and front and rear bumpers. Now, when you're looking to build a Prerunner, the first place that you have to start is with your fiberglass.
We contacted Fiberworks for the fiberglass fenders and bedsides for this build. These are their Chevy Silverado model. It comes standard with a 4.5-inch built-in flare, and the wheel opening is already designed for a 35-inch tire. We actually plan on using 37-inch tires for this build, so in future episodes, you'll see us clearance these fenders to fit the 37s. First thing we have to do is remove the factory fender. Unbolt the factory bolts, drill out the spot welds, then we're going to take a floor jack up the truck, and pull the tire off to gain access to the inner fender well. If you notice right here, there's a little indentation where the factory spot weld is. That's what we're doing. We're drilling that spot weld out to release the outer fender skin from the inner fender, and we're using a 5/16 drill bit.
We've got all the spot welds drilled out. You can see it's already starting to separate. It's a good idea to loosen up your headlight just so you can gain access to the front of it. Makes it a little easier to adjust. And what's nice about these fenders too is you don't have to remove the hood when you're doing this. We're able to access all the spot welds with the hood still intact. Now it's time to lift up the truck, get the front wheel off so we can gain access to the inner fender well.
It's very important to use a jack stand underneath the frame of your truck anytime you're working on it without a tire. You don't want to rely on just the floor jack to hold up all the weight. Remove all the 7mm bolts and plastic clips holding the inner fender well. With the inner fender removed, you can see that there's a spot welded seam that runs the length of the inner fender. What we need to do is cut a 1/4 inch to the outside of the truck along that seam to remove the outer fender skin. Remove the 13mm bolts from inside the door jamb. We cut this hole in the outer skin to gain access to the inner fender. This portion you see right here, that needs to be removed in order to get this outer skin completely off. The reason we cut the inner fender out was to gain access to this point. We made two marks. One here coming down from this access hole to this corner, and then one straight across. Once we cut those two out, the outer skin should come right off. You have one more cut to make, right behind the hinge bolts for the hood. You want to go down right to this corner. As you remember, we already made this cut earlier. Once you make this final cut, the whole corner of the fender will be removed. A lot of you might be wondering why we went through all the trouble to keep our factory fender wells intact. Well, one reason is there's a lot of engine components that mount to the inner fenders. They also provide a lot of rigidity to the core support. And Fiberworks actually designs their fenders to use this inner lip as a mounting location.
We got the fender temporarily clamped in place. Now we're doing this so that we can know where the factory mounting holes are. We're going to use a marker to mark the holes from underneath, here, here, and back here, and then we'll take it off so we can drill it so we can permanently mount the fender.
We've marked the mounting hole location on our fender. We're using a 3/8" drill bit because our hardware is 5/16 shank. That'll allow us a little bit of play, so when we're trying to line up the fender with the hood, we have a little bit of adjustment. One more hole to drill in the fender, and then we can mount it. Fiberworks pre-marks the fender with an indent so you know where the hole should be, but it's always a good idea just to double check and mark it before you drill. The last place we're mounting the fiberglass fenders right here in this front corner. But if you remember, Fiberworks designed these fenders for a 35-inch tire. We're planning on using 37-inch tires. So in future episodes, when we put the long travel kit and the tires in place, we'll have to check the clearance. It may be necessary for us to clearance this area out. So for now, we're just going to use a sheet metal screw to hold it in place.
Our fender's mounted. Now we want to take the hood down slowly so we can make sure that our gap lines up and nothing's hitting. Everything looks great. All right, the one thing that you will notice is sometimes with fiberglass, it's not as perfect as metal. What we had to do back here, there was a slight clearancing that we had to do. Maybe a 1/16 of an inch was it. But other than that, Fiberworks does an amazing job. I mean, this fiberglass fender looks exactly like the factory. just with a little bit of flair to it. And now that the front's done, it's time to move on to the bedsides in the back. We've taped this section off. You can see right here. We're going to be cutting using our plasma cutter right along the inside of this line. But before we do that, the first step, we need to take the gas filler neck off. You use a T30, and there's just 2 bolts right here. All right, now that we got that off, the other thing that we're going to be doing is removing the rear bumper and also this tire. We're going to be showing you where on the inside of this fender well that we're going to have to cut to remove this outer skin, so that way we can place the fiberglass on and see if we need to do any trimming around the light.
We're about to start cutting the outer skin of the fender off. We're using a plasma cutter, but really you can achieve the same result using a sawzall, cut-off wheel, die grinder, whatever you have access to. Plasma cutter just makes everything a lot faster.
All right, we got the outer skin cut off of our bedside here. We've got our 37-inch Mickey Thompson tire in place. Now the Fiberworks bedsides that we're going to be using on this Silverado, they were originally designed for a 35-inch tire. We're using a 37. So we're going to have to see what we're going to have to clearance in the future just to make sure that everything's going to fit properly. Why don't you bring that bedside in? We got our tape line installed here. This is a basic estimation of where we think we're going to have to clearance these bedsides so we can fit our massive 37-inch Mickey Thompson tires. What's missing from this equation though is we haven't installed our D-relief springs yet. That's going to dramatically change our ride height. So for now, we're going to show you how to install these bedsides as they come from Fiberworks.
We're going to start the mounting process by laying out the hole locations to drill for our through bolts that are going to go through the bedside and into the bed rail. We're going to mark out 6 holes at 14 inches apart down the length of the bedside. I'm marking the mounting hole 2 inches out from the inner bed rail. That way I can get a wrench on the inside to get to the nut to be able to tighten it down. After you get your bedsides mounted, you might notice that there's a little bit of trimming needed around the taillight section. We're just going to use some 60 grit sandpaper to clean up that edge to allow the taillight to come out more freely. Now we need to make two brackets, one for the leading side of the fender well opening and one for the trailing side of the fender well opening. To do that, we're just going to measure from this frame brace down to the fender itself. As you can see here, we have the support bar bolted into the lower portion of the fender. The reason we don't have it mounted at the top is so you have some adjustability. You want adjustability when trying to line up the body line of the cab with the fiberglass bedside. We repeated the exact same process that we did on the front with the trailing edge of our bedsides. It's a very simple and effective way of mounting your Fiberworks bedsides. Fiberworks designed their bedsides to reuse the factory gas filler door. We're actually going to use a locking gas filler door, and we're going to show you how to adapt that into your Fiberworks bedsides. In order to mount the gas filler neck, we need to stretch it over to the outside flare of the bedside and mark the holes, drill them, and it bolts right back in place.
When looking for wheels and tires for your Prerunner, a lot of us just make our decision based on price alone, and we never consider the actual performance gains that can be had by buying a quality wheel and tire package.
When we were considering which wheels to choose for our Silverado project, we needed something that would handle the abuse that our Prerunner is going to see. That's why we contacted KMC for a set of their 17x9 Enduro wheels. KMC has deep roots in the off-road industry. Now we can hit the dirt with confidence, knowing we have some of the best wheels available.
The tires you choose are equally as important as the wheels you choose. So we contacted Mickey Thompson Tires for a set of their 37, 12.5, 17 Baja MTZ radial tires. Now we've used these in previous projects and we're quite impressed with their performance. These deep, large lugs help us get through the silt, and their radial design means they're going to handle equally as well on the highway.
When you're considering which size tires to run on your Prerunner, remember there's a couple general rules of thumb to go by. A small to mid-sized truck will typically run a 33 to 35 inch tall tire. That's dependent upon if you're running fiberglass fenders or not. Whereas a full size, like our Chevy Silverado build, would typically run a 35 to 37 inch tire. That's also dependent upon if you're running fiberglass fenders or not. If you have any question on tire fitment or size, please visit our website at FullDroopTV.com and drop us an email.
Welcome to FDTV Talk, where we answer your questions about pre-runners. And today's question comes from Travis.
Hey guys, I was just calling in to see if you could explain where the term pre-runner came from.
That's a great question, Travis. Thanks for asking. The term pre-runner comes from off-road racing. Off-road race teams would take street-driven trucks, turn them into specific vehicles that they would drive to a race course, and then pre-run that race course before the actual race.
And that's what this show is all about. We're going to be showing you how to build these pre-runners, like installing long travel suspension kits, fiberglass fenders and bedsides, larger wheels and tires, so you can have a pre-runner of your own. And if you would like your question answered on air, then visit our website, FullDroopTV.com, and click on the icon FDTV Talk. All right, we have our Fiberglass Fenders and bedsides installed. This gives us the room we need so we can install our LSK long travel suspension kit in our next episode. And if you have any questions about any of the products that we use here on FullDroopTV, just visit FullDroopTV.com.
Bed cage allows you to mount
We got the
with the leading edge, or the trailing edge, a locking gas filler door, aftermarket. I don't know why I said that.
Now when you're, I forgot what I was going to say.